As you saw in the title and the thumbnail, I am starting a new model train layout. Now before you go ham in the comment section, let me explain the method to my madness. One major reason for starting over is a very important aspect of any model railroad, and that is functionality. After going over my old footage, I did quickly realize what I did wrong. On this layout, I laid my track, painted it, and then wired it all up, when I should have laid the track, then wired it after, which is what I did on all my previous layouts and never had any issues. Because of the way I did it, I had some dead spots where my engine would lose all power. It didn't happen all the time, but enough to make me want to start over. I even tried adding these frog juicers to hopefully help with my problems. This was a dual frog juicer that I added, which helped a little bit, but not 100%. So I do hope you guys understand my tough decision to start over, but making mistakes is a part of the journey. I love making layouts and doing videos on it, so I look at this as a positive change, and I hope you do as well. This section here will be saved since I still really like it, so you'll probably see it sometime in the future. Now that all the boring stuff is out of the way, we can now move on. So that brings us to today. This is the new and improved layout that I've been working on over the past month, and at twice the size, I think this one will be much more fun. We begin our layout journey at Lowe's. The tops will be this 5mm utility panel. I'll be using 1-inch thick foam this time around instead of 2 inches. Not only is 1-inch thick sheets of this pink foam cheaper, but I learned after my last layout that 2 inches just isn't necessary for what I'm doing. One service that Lowe's provides is that they cut any wood that you're planning on purchasing. So I had them cut my 2 utility panels in half just to make my life easier. For my frames, I decided on using 1x4s, and that's after looking online on what's the most ideal choice for building a modular layout. Just about $233 later, I have all the material needed to get started. I didn't show these, but I will be using 2x2s for the legs and 1x2s for the cross bracing. I've never shown my construction of benchwork for my layouts in the past, but this time I'll be showing you how I do it. First thing I'm doing is cutting all my cross pieces for my frames using the 1x4s. Those will all be 22.5 inches long. Here is all the pieces I need to build one section. This is one of two 2-foot by 6-foot sections. What's nice is you can buy the 1x4s in 6-foot lengths, so that's what I have there, plus the pieces that I just cut. As an example, this is how it will be put together. I'll be using these drywall screws and wire nails to do so. After some time, we now have the frame fully put together. Next up is to nail the utility panel to the frame. And now we have one section fully complete. I'll be repeating this process for the other 3. Before we start putting everything together, I'll be adding these Scotch leveling glides to my 2x2 legs. To do this, I'll be using my 5/16 drill bit. Once a hole is drilled into the 2x2, we can now hammer in the white piece. This is the first time I've used these on a layout build, and I hate to say it, but in the past I used to use Lego bricks to help level my layouts, but not anymore. Here's how all 4 sections will be done. After a good while, all these sections are up and put into place. Now it's finally starting to look like a proper train layout. I'm happy that I took more time to build the benchwork, because that's a very important part of the hobby, and it only took 4 layouts to figure that one out. Next up is adjusting all the feet as needed until everything is level. As for the overall height of the tables, it currently stands at about 39.5 inches tall, plus 1 more inch once we add the foam. To connect all these sections together, I'll be using these bolts and wing nuts for the ease of taking apart and putting back together sometime in the future. And of course, my buddy Binks is well accustomed to the new layout. I measure and mark where the bolts will go so it looks nice. Then I use some clamps to make sure nothing moves when I'm drilling. Next up is adding our foam. These break into halves, which is perfect, but we still need to cut off a couple of feet for these 6-foot sections. These 2x2 pieces of foam will come in handy for the future scenery. As always, I like to use tacky glue to secure the foam down, but there are other options that work well, like Loctite Power Grab. When gluing, I just make sure to get close to the edge so they don't stick up. Then I wiggle the foam back and forth to spread out the glue, and then slide it into place. Random objects are then put on top to make sure it stays flat. The following day, the glue is dry, and now we can move on. If you are curious, this is the total size of the layout, which is 10 feet by 8 feet. A new layout means a nice big order from Lombard Hobbies. Time to unbox this bad boy to see what we got. First up is a big industry that will be on the new layout. This one will receive boxcars. Speaking of boxcars, I did get one TTX boxcar by Atherin ready to roll. Next is a Walther's bridge. This layout will actually have one, so I'm excited to add that in the future. I also picked up another 2-bay covered hopper, cause they're awesome. 3 packs of Walther's Code 83 track, a pack of wood grade crossings by Seedmaster, a huge bundle of turnouts and rail joiners, all Code 83 and all Walther's. And lastly is a bottle of Woodland Scenics ballast. This time I'm going to be using fine instead of medium. The turnouts are all number 5s and number 6s, DCC friendly by Walther's like I said, and man, these add up quickly. And the fun stuff that I cannot wait to build and add to the new layout. Next up on the to-do list is painting the benchwork. I'll be using this jet black acrylic paint. I ended up using 6 total bottles to paint everything, which is only $3 of paint. Here is a before, and here's after. It really makes everything look much more finished. Here's another before and after. The legs are a little bit tedious, but it's one of those things that you do once and only once. Alright, let's go over my track. This turnout here will be the only number 4 turnout on the layout, and that's because I already had it from before. Like I said, it's all going to be number 5s and number 6s. The rail joiners will be by Walther's instead of Atlas this time around. And of course, you need plenty of flex track. After unboxing, we have a lot of recycling, but more importantly, we have our turnouts. Since I'm doing a lot of unboxing, let's check out the Atherin TTX boxcar. You get a nice blow-up part sheet. And here it is. You do pay a premium, but you do get your money's worth in detail. The time has come to start laying out some track. And now we can get an idea of what I want things to look like and how I want things to function. I won't be using a track plan designer such as SCARMS or any rail, just rough markups drawn on paper and research online for inspiration. When laying the flex track down, I realized how much will be needed on this section alone. If you are building your own model railroad, remember, it'll probably cost more than you think. I'm starting to cut off the last railroad tie on each turnout and piece of track so I can get those rail joiners on. I always save the ties I cut off because they will be used later on to fill those gaps. I will be using my road-to-rail aggregate transfer kit by Walthers on the new layout, so I took it off the old one. Here I'm just fixing it up since it did come apart in a couple places. To make the layout more fit for the future, I decided to add these wood dowels between each section. This way they have a better chance of fitting back together if and when I move them in the distant future. Since I was already making a big mess, I decided to drill the holes for my bus wires. Another do it once and never again kind of task. I also gently sanded the spots where each section meets so it's more smooth and ready for track. You can see that I'll be using my propane tanks again and also my engine shed. Back to the track work. You can already see that I've changed my mind of where the turnouts will be. Here's a closer look on cutting the railroad ties if you've never done this yourself. The ruler is there because I don't want to mess up the foam, because any type of direct pressure on it will leave a permanent mark. These Walthers rail joiners work a lot better than the Atlas ones. Now it's time to solder these pieces together. Soldering the flex track beforehand on long stretches of track helps tremendously, especially on curves. And I will say my soldering now is much better than the last time. This is a time lapse of my track laying process. All I can say is take your time and double check your track before the glue dries. The nice thing about using tacky glue to glue everything down is if you make a mistake, you can easily peel up the track with no issue. And that's exactly what I do because I end up not liking how I made my yard ladder. The plan is to have a 3-track yard that curves around the corner and connects up here. I'm still using the same box of nails that I bought 3 years ago. They are perfect for holding down the track while you look at it before gluing, or even for gluing. 3 tracks are put in, but this will all change a little bit when I actually realize that the spacing is too much between each of them. So I will be changing that in the next episode. Overall, this is relatively what I'm going for. Here's my yard full of cars to get an idea of how many can fit. This will be my biggest yard yet, and since I love train yards, I'm pretty happy about that. Well, that's the end of the episode. I hope you're not too upset that I decided to start over, but at the end of the day, I just love making train layouts and sometimes you make a mistake. And for all the people that do stick around and have stuck around since maybe my first layout back in 2021, I really do appreciate you guys watching my videos, and all I can say is thank you. So we'll be back with a new episode soon. There's a lot to do, a lot to cover, and a lot to build. So thank you for watching again, and I will see you in the next episode.